And now presenting The Save State, Indiana Jones' Greatest Adventures. And also the Temple of Doom is in this one.
That's it. That's great.
Completely different subject. I saw Netflix's newest film. I don't usually watch new movies when they come out, as you well know. I like to let them sit for a good 10 to 20 years before I watch them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm in that same camp.
But I watched Unfrosted, the Jerry Seinfeld making of the Pop-Tart movie. I guess the whole thing, it's supposed to be a parody of those, the making of Tetris movies, and it's bad. It was so bad.
You should have.
I mean, he brought back the entire writing team from B Movie. He didn't. He spared no expense.
Did you do this to create content for the show? Or did you do this organicacally? Because if so, I'm worried about you, bud.
It's just one of those things where you get I just want to, I'm up here with my dad, and he wants to watch stuff while he eats, and I don't want to spend half an hour trying to figure out what we're gonna watch while we eat. So it was the first thing that popped up, and I said, let's watch that, and then we did, and
you got fucked by the algorithm.
Just terrible. It's they don't have any jokes in the movie. They have scenes just kind of float in and out. They just kind of just go to different sets. It's like, if you can imagine, in 30 Rock, they would do a joke about something like the rule juror, and they would cut away to a 30-second bit of a joke version of that, and then. This is they made the full-length version of the cutaway joke from a 30 Rock gag.
Oh, Jesus.
30 Rock is making a joke about these biopic making of movies, and then they cut away. And it's got so many fucking people in it. Everyone's in this goddamn movie.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not, some of them are, good actors, I don't know. And it's set in the 60s, so, of course, they have to have, all these terrible 60s jokes, oh look, it's Bill Burr playing JFK. I wonder what kind of jokes we'll get out of this scenario. And if it's the lowest hanging fruit on that tree, that's exactly what the joke is every single time.
Might be a hot take. I'm not a huge Bill Burr fan. I'm not a fan of my comedy being angry in general. When I was growing up, I loved Lewis Black. It felt like my soul had embodied this old Jewish man and was just expressing itself truly. But that's because I was an angry, rebellious teenager. Now I just want chill vibes. Give me some Dimitri
Jim
Martin.
Gaffigan's in this too.
Give me some Mitch Hedberg. Jim Gaffigan, love him. Brian Regan, good, funny, clean, quiet. Yeah.
Yeah, Bill Burr's just Dennis Leary if you shave his head. That's all he is.
Interesting. Huh. Yeah, if Dennis Leary had, more of a drinking problem, so he was more puffy and a shaved head. Yeah, I see it.
But anyway, I don't know. It was just terrible. I hated it. I don't know. There was, the weird thing was they obviously had a lot of money because they have, these huge sets. There are so many, they built these really nice big sets, and the costumes are, really elaborate and well done, but it was, written by an inattentive child. I don't know.
I just want to real quick see how much of his own money he put into this production.
I want to give you the cast of this movie. just so you know how much money they were spending on the cast. They had Hugh Grant as for a tertiary role. Amy Schumer's in this, Jim Gaffigan, Christian Slater also a cameo role. Fred Armisen's in there for a minute. John Hamm's in there for a minute doing
John Hamm,
a Madman pastiche thing.
Yeah.
Because that was literally it's a movie about cereal, so you have to have a Madman joke. I don't fucking know. I feel drained just talking about it. And that's the thing. Watching a bad movie can be interesting, but there's never a time when watching a bad comedy is fun, just ever.
No, no. I get what you're saying. Bad movies can be good if they're bad enough.
They can be enjoyable if they're bad enough.
I will rephrase. Bad movies can be enjoyable if they're bad enough. Yeah, especially if you're watching with friends, like a whole group that can shit on it. But a comedy, so this was meant to be a comedy? I know it's got a lot of comedic actors. Oh, that's a real shame. Yeah, a comedy has to be good.
You could tell it's one of those things where they just wrote the scene setups and we're kind of oh, we've got all these funny people in this movie. They're just going to ad-lib all over this and we won't need to write anything. And it's they all just wanted to go home because they literally just kind of went with the first joke that they thought of. And Jerry Seinfeld the entire time is acting like he's not even supposed to be there. He's just isn't this funny that I'm making this movie like this? And you're no, this isn't funny. I don't know.
Yeah, it's a real shame. I heard this was coming out a while back. And I was well, that's not going to actually make it through production. That's going to get shuttered. And wow, look at what having too much money and clout in an industry gets you.
I mean, also just Netflix has too much money still. I mean, it feels this was
you're right.
made
It's
for TV
both of their faults.
Sequel to something. This should be the Santa Claus 5, but it's about Pop-Tarts for some reason. But it isn't.
No, this was the first time he's ever directed anything. I mean, I'm assuming
sense.
Directed an episode of Seinfeld, maybe, but
he didn't direct the B movie. Did he just write that one? That should have been a red flag to some people. I don't know. Maybe they saw the ironic B movie shit posting, and they were oh no, people actually like that now. Let's go back and recapture the magic with the same writing team. I don't fucking know.
You know what I didn't realize it was going to be was a live movie about the creation of the Pop-Tart. I really thought it was going to be just an animated Pop-Tarts movie, like a CGI Pop-Tarts movie, where each Pop-Tart had their own personality and voices. And there was going to be a scene where a Pop-Tart gets thrown into a toaster and all the others are horrified. I thought I wanted to kind of see that, where it was going to get a little dark. And some dark comedy, but yeah, to each their own.
I don't know. I think that movie sounds bad too.
I just want to watch a bunch of Pop-Tarts get horrified as they watch one of their friends get eaten.
Well, you could watch those rip-off. What's his name? Don Hertzfeldt, the fucking Rejected.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah. My anus is bleeding. Yeah, all of that. Sure.
But those were rip-offs of his style. He didn't actually do those.
And the Pop-Tart
the whole
would
thing of
get
Rejected
closer
is
and
that
eat each other, and yeah.
Yeah. That would be the way to do that. But no, he didn't make those, which is ironic because Rejected is about rejected pitches for advertising campaigns.
So you're saying what you would rather see if it was going to be an animated Pop-Tart film is Pop-Tarts cannibalizing each other would be funnier.
Yeah, but with that metatextual pencil drawing thing where you rip up the paper. And...
I did enjoy that when the paper tore at the end and became a black hole and started sucking everything in. That was good.
Yeah.
Rejected was good.
That would have been a good thing to do in this movie.
Just rip up the script before it ever gets in front of a camera.
There's a sequence of the movie where like sea monkeys get inside one of the prototype Pop-Tarts and like they sneak into the vents, and it's kind of shot like it's gonna turn like it's like a monster or something because it's the '60s, so they have to make a sea monkeys joke. That's why the sea monkeys are in there.
Fuck.
Don't ask.
Dude.
So I was kind of hoping the rest of it would just turn into Alien, but like it was like they were being chased by like a mutant Pop-Tart. No.
Do you think they had test audiences for this? Like, do you think there's a lot of different takes?
I think they did, and actually,
like,
my theory is that this movie was like made for like nursing homes or something. Like this is like, because like it's not even just boomer humor. It's like old boomer humor, like Jack LaLanne and Schwinn bicycles, and like you know they kind of expected them to like make jokes about fucking ration cards or some shit. Like it is. Like I don't know. Like my guess is like the people who really respond to this this kind of movie have like a pretty high incidence of dementia.
Well, if it makes you feel any better, Jerry Seinfeld has gone on record and said that this movie wasn't his idea, which
I'm sure he's gonna complain about how like all the woke people made him take out all the funny jokes.
Yeah, he's become a real badman of Hollywood. Like my opinion of him has gone down significantly as I was an avid reader of his works as a kid growing up. I used to keep his book Sign Language, which was basically just all of his bits from Seinfeld that he expanded on for no real reason, right on my bookshelf and pull it down all the time. And I was like, this is how I'm going to learn comedy. And I suffered for that one.
Yeah, there's a bit where like JFK knocks up the Doublemint twins because it's the 60s joke.
Sure.
60s things you remember.
Yeah.
These are some and then they have twins and it's like JFK has
the twins
sex
have
with,
twins.
yeah.
Each of them has a twin.
Mhm. That's the joke. That's the whole joke. That's the
And then he has the Secret Service kill them to keep the scandal quiet, right? Just like they did Marilyn Monroe.
No.
Oh,
that
weird.
would be funny,
Huh.
but no. So there's this bit where they go to like get more sugar from like the sugar cartel, and like it's like this whole cocaine is sugar thing, which is
Do they do the thing with the gums and like how pure is it and it's been cut with something and like all those
oh
little bits?
I bet the original version has that in there, but they cut that because like they were decided like they're going to aim more PG at some point or something
Right.
like
If
that.
you go too much into that, you're going to remind these olds that are watching it how scary Mexico is to them right now. And everything
they go
about
to
the
Puerto
southern
Rico this
border.
time, so.
Okay.
So then there's this gag where he like, so what's his face from Arrested Development, the actor who plays Buster, I can't remember his name.
Oh, yeah. Fuck.
He's like a ventriloquist, and like to prove how, you know, evil the cartel guy is, he has the ventriloquist taken out and shot for not being funny. But then the gag is that like he shoots the ventriloquist dummy, and then he's like trying to like resuscitate the dummy at the end, and it's actually kind of funny because he's like, you know, it's okay, you'll be okay. He's like, no, I'm dying, and it's you know, it's a funny bit with the ventriloquist dummy.
Mm-hmm.
But then Melissa McCarthy and Jerry Seinfeld are walking out of the building. They like stop, point at him, and go, "What's that? Huh? That's weird." Like they have to sit there and like actually point at the funny thing that's happening in their movie because they're like, "Oh, I'm so unaccustomed to humor occurring in this film. We have to like signpost it and like grind the movie to a halt for a 45-second cameo because like, blah." I mean, not that the movie was going at any decent pace before that, but
They might have well just done a full Monty Python and looked to camera and said, "And now for something completely different."
that's what a lot of the scenes feel like because they just kind of jump into different spots. Like,
Jesus.
I don't know.
I'm sorry you did that to yourself. I get why
I'm
you
just
did it to
amazed at how
yourself.
bad it was, though.
Yeah.
I'm just like, I
mean,
mean, I'm
I'm
not
not.
like I have like.
I tried to watch Jerry's last couple things that he's done, and It's no good. And then especially after watching so much Curb Your Enthusiasm, when they like finally did the Seinfeld reunion on Curb, I was just like, yeah, these are all just different like versions of Larry David. Like everything's Larry David. You got nothing, Jerry.
Oh, yeah, there's this whole bit where there's he's being stalked by like the milk mafia, because like this is the joke that would make sense if it's like the Santa Claus or something like that, because the milk mafia doesn't want him inventing the Pop-Tart because then kids can eat cereal without milk.
Right.
So you think, okay, that sounds like a kid movie premise.
It does.
Except for like the part where JFK knocks up the Doublemint twins. And so like who is this for? Anyway, but then like so he's getting stalked by Christian Slater. Like, he's the milkman who is stalking Jerry Seinfeld. And then he is captured by Peter Dinklage, who is the head of the milk mafia.
Okay,
and then his
liking that.
Yeah, and then the punishment is that he's going to be tortured. But the way he is tortured is that he has to get farted on by several cows.
What? Is it supposed to be
the
climate
by a bunch
change
of cows
joke about methane? Because actually, it's not their farts; it's their burps that cause like the methane expulsion. Like
no. It's just, and then after that, they have Jerry Seinfeld crying in the shower, like, you know, like a rape scene or something. Like he's just violated and like
Jesus
beside
Christ.
himself because he got farted on by a bunch of cows.
Fuck, Pop-Tart movie. The fuck are you doing? I was like, oh, this sounds fun. This is like a throwback to like Big Fat Liar or one of those silly movies. And then, okay, wow.
Yeah, this movie, like, it just can't decide, because there's like all these bits where like they find these like children eating like literal garbage, and that's where the inspiration for Pop-Tarts comes from. And I'm like, okay, this could be a funny bit of commentary. And they're just like, no, it's just literally kids eat garbage. That's the joke.
What?
That's all we're going for.
Is it like supposed to be like a classist thing?
Nope.
Like, here's a replacement, you pores? Okay.
Yeah. Like, wouldn't it be funny if we had a scene where kids ate garbage?
Huh. Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of
Could
like
be.
brand stuff in here, so maybe there's just like they had to like somehow appease the corporate overlords behind the movie. But like, I think the big problem is that it wants to be. I mean, there's a lot of big problems. But
Do you think that scene was kind of like a Avengers style end credit scene leading up to the next movie that is going to be about the creation of the Garbage Pail Kids?
No, that was the beginning of the movie.
Fuck me.
The first
Okay.
scene in the movie
Huh.
is Jerry Seinfeld saying, "Hey kids, what are you doing in that dumpster?" Actually, it's not the first scene in the movie, because the movie's actually got this bookend bit where he's explaining the creation of a Pop-Tart to a kid in an old-timey diner that he just randomly
Oh, Jesus
encounters.
Christ. Okay. Yeah, you know it's going to be a good movie when it starts with the framing device of it's going to be a flashback.
Well, that's the thing. Is like I was thinking this was going to be a kids movie. There's a lot of bright colors. They start off with like a lot of kids in that. Like there's the kid in the diner. There's these kids eating garbage. Jerry Seinfeld is doing this really weird performance. I was thinking it was a kids movie, but it's not a kids movie, because a kids movie has to have things happen in it.
Yeah.
For kids to find enjoyable.
Usually like a lesson to be learned, and yeah.
Yeah.
Huh.
Or not even that. I mean, like, the thing is, it's like they could do the fart scene. That's a good thing for kids.
Kids
Like,
love farts. I love farts. They're hilarious.
But then they have to end it with the crying game, and that's like, that's not for the kids.
No, I don't think they're going to get that reference. Seems out of place in, well, I was going to say it seems out of place in a comedy, but Me, Myself, and Irene does it pretty good when he learns what that Kielbasa had been up to. But still.
But Me, Myself, and Irene is a very different movie.
It is.
No one thinks that's for kids. And I don't know. I don't know if that's a good movie, but I watched it when I was like 13. So
yeah, me too.
Obviously it was the height of comedy at the time.
Yeah. God.
But speaking of movies, we should talk about
We played 3 of them.
We played. Well, 2.5. Really.
Yeah. With a lot of hard edits.
Yeah. Welcome to The Save State, a podcast where we talk about video games. This episode, we're talking about Indiana Jones' Greatest Adventures.
Indiana Jones's Greatest Adventures.
This is the SNES
This is
platformer?
SNES. Yep. Indiana Jones's Greatest Adventures on the SNES. It's going to be fun to edit that.
Yes.
Yes.
It's a very sibilant series of consonants. It was good. I liked it. It was fast. It moved good. The controls were. It was okay. So this game came out right at the tail end of the SNES's lifetime, right? And it's I don't know. The game that reminded me most of was maybe like the Aladdin game for the Genesis.
Yeah.
It's kind of platformery with like maybe a dash of Castlevania, but that might have been just the whips and the bats that I was thinking of.
Mm-hmm.
But you move forward, you hit things. It's like the most it's like the video game, the prototype that all licensed video games follow. You have a platforming game that you move from left to right, generally recreating scenes from the film.
Mm-hmm.
But did a good job with it, I thought. I don't know. I like the pixel art. They had some good touches.
There was some timeline inconsistency as far as like, look, nitpicky, sure, but like when I'm in Raiders, I don't want to see Sean Connery at a game over continue screen. Like that makes no sense to me.
Oh, and also like they didn't show them in chronological order. They showed them in the release order. So Temple of Doom really should be first, but they cut out all this is my favorite version of Temple of Doom. I'll have to say that
because they cut out all the racist bits.
Any of. Well, no, you just don't see any of the side characters. No Short Round or Screechy Woman. There's just Indiana.
Indiana and that one adorable elephant.
Yeah. It's kind of really simple. There's no the maps are very left to right. There's no exploration really. There's some very basic puzzles you have to do. You have two upgrades. You can get the whip, which you basically start every level with, but technically it's an upgrade because
you find it in some floating metal orb because those are around for some reason.
Why not?
Yeah.
I mean, it's a video game with triumphs. You do get a pistol, but the pistol is not fun Indiana Jones. You're not I thought as soon as I saw the gun, I was like, oh yeah, I'm just gonna waste dudes. And no, it's like a pea shooter. It takes 8 shots to kill anything.
You were waiting for the sword scene where you can just pull out the gun.
Yeah, I mean that's what I was hoping. Or at the very least it was but it has unlimited ammo at least, so you don't have to worry about that. But,
yeah.
I don't know. But I don't know. I had fun with it. It's very difficult, but at the same time, it has it's more forgiving than I thought it would be because you do have a fairly decent health bar and you have lives, and the continues aren't too bad, especially with the passwords.
Mm-hmm.
Because you do have a password system.
Mm-hmm.
So this could have been a Ghouls and Goblins 2 hits you're dead, start from the beginning kind of a thing. It isn't that.
I'm glad it isn't because it took me a while, longer than I'd care to admit, to get past the boulder in the beginning. That whole sequence was so fucking rough. I was like, great, you're giving me maybe 15 frames of heads up before I need to jump over obstacles. The way the boulder moves, it is more than halfway past the center of the screen. So you are at a running position almost right to the edge of the screen, and you just have to really quickly turn off your brain and let your subconscious tell you when to jump.
Computer's off. Luke, you switched off your targeting computer. What's wrong?
Nothing.
No, it's there's, and also because it is a licensed property, they have to make the sprites really big so you can see that it's Indiana Jones right on the screen.
Which they did. I liked that. They did a good job with that.
Yeah. The game. There are certainly games that do a much worse job of it, but yeah, the boulder sequence is very turbo tunnel-y in that you have no time to react really for a lot of things. My first big block was actually the first jump of the first big jump of the game where you had to get the whip to hook onto the peg so you could swing
learning
across.
How to actually use the mechanics of the whip on it. It's just on release, which for me I kept trying to hit the jump button again, and Yep.
Yeah, it's very unintuitive for someone going back to it. I mean, I'm sure at the time it made sense, but
Oh no, I got a continue screen on that first like pivot until I figured out like how to do this. I was like, fuck this game. And then I was like, okay,
exactly.
this is fine. This is fine. This is actually kind of fun when you get into a good flow state.
Yeah, and like certainly early on, they do like a good job with like the detail. Like this game's divided into like the 3 movies essentially. And like I think the first one gets a lot more attention than the other 2. But there's like some stuff you didn't really see a lot of these older pixel art licensed games. Like I like how like the leaves will move as Indiana Jones moves across the field. Like there's these little pixel leaves that respond to movement and stuff like that. I thought that was a really cool touch, especially like when they're having to be economical with sprite counts and stuff like that.
Yes, one of the standouts for me was the because I died so often, I realized very quickly that death did not, like in a lot of these games, death resets you to a checkpoint and all the enemies will respawn during like between that checkpoint again. And it's just like, well, try again. This one, the enemies only respawn if you have to go to a continue and start the stage completely over, which that I felt like was very impressive because that's just that extra little bit of memory that they don't have a lot of room for in a SNES game.
Well, they weren't spending it on having onboard saving, so
Yeah. I wonder if it actually made it easier for them to not have to repopulate between deaths, it's just a simple code that puts the character back with full health at the last checkpoint. I bet that's what it was. It actually saved memory, but it felt really refreshing for a platformer. Because especially when you're getting frustrated and you're like, God damn it, I've got 1 life left. I've been trying to get through this area. Well, I've cleared all the enemies, so now it's just straight platforming.
Well, and also, like, this game doesn't like, it's like with a Mario or a Donkey Kong Country, a lot of the times you're using enemies to, like, even get to certain places, like bouncing off the head of something, or you need a certain enemy in order to damage something else. So
you don't do that here.
Yeah, you don't. There's not that much thought put into this, like the mechanics of this game at least. So like that might be part of the reason why you get more resets in other games, is because like there's this idea that you need to, have those other enemies to attack.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, there's a lot of contrived enemies. Like there's just like all the hallmarks of kind of licensed games are in this. Like because like they're trying to turn a movie into games, so you have like sequences that are like, well, this was a 5-minute bit in the movie. Like they take in the third movie, they take the entire Zeppelin sequence and turn it into like this level where you're climbing through like scaffolding and rafters and stuff, and like you have to fight bats. Why not?
So many bats.
What like and this game does, like, the one thing I was looking forward to with this game was the minecart sequence. I'm like, okay, we finally got the originator of the minecart ride, the minecart sequence in this. This is going to be the...
Mm-hmm.
It's not bad. It's not what I wanted, but it's not bad. It's like it's very impressive technically, because I guess it's using like super scaling or mode 7 or whatever they called it on Nintendo. That gets like this really cool almost 3D effect as like you're moving over lava, and that was very... It was fun. I like that. They do something similar with like the airplane fighter sequence later on, which again probably very impressive for the SNES. But it wasn't really what I wanted. I wanted like a Donkey Kong Country kart sequence, really.
Yeah, when I picture a good minecart sequence in a platformer, it's Donkey Kong Country. Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, Donkey Kong Country had been out by this point. There's been at least 2 of them.
That's what's fucking wild, is that they had so much to go off of, and they couldn't get that. Someone somewhere was drafting up the first Crash Bandicoot game. If they had just turned that boulder to back-facing with front-facing Indy running towards the screen, they would have been the first ones to fucking do it. Like, there were so many things they could have tweaked with this to make it probably one of the best platformers of the SNES era.
I think it's... I mean, if you discount the Mickey ones and the Aladdin... Like, So if you discount Disney, this is probably like one of the better licensed games from this era I've played.
Sure, I could see that.
Yeah.
I do like the Star Wars games, though, the licensed Star Wars. So really, LucasArts knows what they're doing for a licensed game at this era right now.
I think this uses the same engine as the Star Wars ones, too.
That makes
if I'm not
sense.
mistaken.
Yeah, the character models are all kind of big on all of them, and
Yeah, and the sound is pretty good for the time period. I wish we could have had a couple more songs, but, you know, you get the big Indiana Jones song. And then I loved when they did bring stuff in for the movies. Like one touch they did is between the acts you get like the map flying over the map thing they do in the Indiana Jones movies where they draw a line to the different locations.
Yeah.
And then that's where you get the password at the bottom. That was really cool. I love that.
Mm-hmm.
That's one of my that's like a really cheap thing you can do in a movie that'll make me like the movie a lot for no specific reason. Just have that little thing where you zoom out to a map and have like it showing where they're going on the map in the montage. I love that.
They also did a really good job where like you get these still images, like pixelated versions of the images, like still images from the movies. And like some of them were so well done that I was wondering, did they actually take a still image from the film and try to render it through like whatever process they have for the SNES, and this is what came out? Or was the artist that good at faithfully recreating the still image? Some of them I couldn't figure that out. I don't know.
Oh, I think they're definitely I think they're definitely stills that have been like processed down
in
to something like that.
Yeah. Some things are too accurate.
Yeah, and there's like a lot of weird shading bits where like you could tell like okay, they were trying to like simplify the colors around this like shaded bit under someone's nose, and you're like, that didn't. But you know, it's a licensed game. I kind of mastered most of the text sequence anyway because I was like, yeah, I've seen these movies. Let's get going.
Yeah.
I will say like one thing I was disappointed with is that I was looking forward to the cart level in Temple of Doom, minecart, and I got it. And then I was like, okay, well the next thing I want to see is the train sequence from the intro of Last Crusade when they're doing Young Indiana Jones.
Yeah,
like,
you fall into the snake pit.
Yeah, every platformer's got to have a train level, especially in this time period.
Yeah.
I love train levels. They skip all of that. They go straight. The first level is Venice. They don't do the sinking ship. They don't do going through the desert. They don't do the train sequence. It's just straight to the
You
Venice
don't
level, which was
get to see a Nazi book burning.
Yeah, no, they also like edited out the swastikas. They're just like red X's, which I guess is good. It's fine.
Fine.
Same
vibe.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't know. I
was
liked
the weaker.
it.
That one was the weaker of the three, for sure.
Yeah, like I mean, you still get the tank fight at least, but the tank fight was not as fun as I was hoping it would be either. Like I felt like they did a really good job with like recreating 1, okay job with 2, and then 3 they're just like, okay, let's get this out the door and move on. It felt rushed or at least abridged. Maybe they didn't figure people would get that far into it.
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah,
it was fine.
Yeah, it was fine.
Yeah,
I mean, it's very good for what it is, which is a whatever SNES generation platformer, like licensed platform, like
end of life licensed platformer. Yes.
Yeah, like I think if we think about like the prototypical bad game, it's gonna fall into that genre, like you know, any like Beetlejuice, you know, like any kind of like, oh gee, like this was the mistake rental is always gonna be a licensed platformer from like the NES era of gaming, right? I mean, before we got to the modern era of asset dumps on Steam, like that was just kind of the go-to place for crappy games. And this game is that, but it isn't in that it does a good job of the game.
Yeah, they were trying. They had some good ideas in it. Like I'm sure they were working off of a very strict deadline that they had no control over. Like all those decisions were made well above them.
Yeah, they could have turned in a much worse game, and God knows hundreds of other developers did at the same time around this time.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, they would have had the Super Star Wars games out, so they could, like, we could have just seen, like, well, let's just take the Han Solo model from those and put a fedora on them.
Just...
Oh, shit, I wonder, actually.
That explains why everything takes like 8 bullets to kill, too.
Uh-huh. Why half the enemies are Greedo. Yeah.
Now, there's some pretty contrived enemies in this game. Like,
yeah.
I said it before, but it's like, oh, a bat. Oh, no, a small rodent. Like, there's little rats that you're, like, one sequence you're running away from a fire, which is kind of fun, but, like, there's just rats moving back and forth on a platform because it's the 90s and this is a video game. So you have to have rats you have to avoid.
It felt like there were very loose disconnects between sequences in the movies like that. Like, when that's happening, I was like, okay, is that calling back to, like, the sewers under Venice, like when they're running from like that fuel lighting, sequence, and all the rats are pouring out, and sure, but like, is that why there's just rats here now? They were like, oh, well, rats are a staple of the Indiana Jones movies, let's put them in. Or like how they are walking through, I believe it was in Raiders, when they're going through like this dark area and they're going through thick webbing, and yeah, it was in Raiders, and spiders are everywhere, all over them, giant spiders, and Indiana Jones is just like picking them off himself, but like the other guy's freaking the fuck out. So they're like, well, spiders are going to be like a crucial little enemy, like little tarantulas that have such a small hitbox that you really might as well not bother ever trying to attack them.
Yeah, I don't know when he gets attacked by bats.
No.
But,
well, in the spiders, he didn't seem like he cared about them in the movies, so they should have just been like, I kept trying to step on them and jump on them. I was like, well, this is just a little spider.
Yeah. No, there's a bit where you're trying to break into the castle in the third movie, and you got your whip, and there's like bats, and then like there's like all this gothic castle architecture, and I'm like, I see what you're trying to do here.
Yep.
You could have done something different.
Yep.
Oh, a fun little game.
Yeah, it actually makes me want to go and play the other LucasArts games for the SNES.
Yeah.
Those are games I haven't played that much because they were always only accessible to me at a friend's house that had a SNES.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I think this could be fun. Going back and checking some old LucasArts.
Yeah. God knows they make good games.
Yeah.
Quick game, quick review.
Yeah. Short and sweet.
I don't know. I feel like I have like
double record week.
I mean, I did a full page of notes, but I don't have much else to say.
I see it. I mean,
kind of.
If we're being honest to the listeners, there's 5 lines there that could have had some more stuff witten down onto them. But
okay, some of these lines are 3 or 4 words. Like
I wasn't gonna get that detailed.
But yeah.
Yeah. No, this was good.
Mm-hmm.
I liked it.
Do you want to do the news next then? Do you want to do a quick break before we do the news?
Let's do a quick break before the news.
And we're back.
Hi, back. I'm Mike.
Oh, God. Yes, it's me, back.
Yeah.
Back.
Got him.
Spelled with 3 C's. So, you heard about this HELLDIVERS thing? Actually, no. You had some news first. You go first, and then we can dive into hell.
We can. Okay. Hey, I like it. I like it. In a related theme to what we're going to be talking about there, this little ditty of a game, Escape from Tarkov. Maybe you've heard about it, seen this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a fun, I guess you can call it arena extraction shooter. If the arenas were just like these giant expansive maps that you have no clue where they are, what like EX-001 co-op exfil. Like, I don't know where the fuck that is, but I guess I'm just going to wander around a map until a green countdown timer starts somewhere around the edge. Sometimes not the edge of the map. And then I'll learn what that one was and maybe remember it.
To me, Tarkov is like the prototypical extraction shooter. Like, I don't know much about them, but when I think about, if someone says extraction shooter, then Escape from Tarkov is the first thing that pops in my mind.
The issue I have with Tarkov is that if you no-life it, you will be king, because not that you're necessarily going to have the best gear, the best loadouts. Like, I can still face shot someone who has like top tier gear and weapons, and my measly bullet that has like almost no penetration can still hit their eye and take them out in like a shot. But it's the intimate knowledge of the soundscape of a map that actually like makes it difficult to play as a new player. So every little sound and movement in the game, like turning just slightly or like changing the fire rate of your weapon, any of it, all those little clicks, like players have their headphones turned up to absolute max volume, max sensitivity. There's different headphones you can wear in the game that will either heighten or dampen specific sound frequencies through the game, so you can focus on listening to very specific sounds. And you will play with people. I've played with people that are like, oh, I know exactly where this person is because I heard like this very dull thump of metal for like one moment and then a little crunch of glass. And I just know where in this building that person stepped. And
Wow.
that makes it so stressful for me when I'm like, I think I heard someone. They're like, where? What did it sound like? And I'm like, I don't know. I just kind of heard a noise, guys. Like, I don't know. Holy shit. And then they're like, well, it's probably nothing. And then we all get gunned down like a moment later. And I lose all of my stuff. And I'm just broke all the time. And it's fine. It's whatever. I'm not a great player of it. But I do enjoy all the other aspects of the game. That part's fun. Like being able to take down the entire weapon down to like the upper and lower receiver and tweak on every little piece of it. And that part's fun. I enjoy it.
Mm-hmm.
What I don't enjoy is the company fucking us over as players because of what it means for something to be DLC. So I purchased a long time ago what they call the Edge of Darkness edition. It is a expanded edition of the game that gives you a little bit of a leg up in the beginning, which for me just means handing over better players all of my gear, like right off the bat. It's just better gear to give them. But it also comes with this clause that we get every DLC, season pass, any new content in that way, DLC wise, for free for the life of the game going forward. So like 2 weeks ago,
Seems like a bad business model, maybe, but yeah.
Well, it was like $150 for this version of the game.
Yeah.
So
Fair.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So like they got a nice little stockpile of cash from it. This game's been in development now for what, 6-8 years, something like that. I don't know. Seems like it's been forever. So they come out with this new thing. They're like, hey, there's this whole like mod called Single Player Tarkov. It essentially scrubs like the game files and creates like a secondary version that you host the server on your end and everything, so that you can just play the game and enjoy all the missions and everything, but without other players being involved. You can still die all the time to the NPCs. They're just as deadly and accurate as anyone else. But if you don't like playing with other people, here's this option. And the developers went, we're going to do that too. We're going to release a solo mode. It's PvE only. You can go in with friends. It's persistent. So between updates and patches, we do not wipe the server for this one. So you'll just be able to like keep this character going forever. And it's going to be another $100 if you want to play this mode.
$100 for DLC?
Well, so they said this is not DLC. The Edge of Darkness free DLC clause doesn't count because this is just extra content.
That costs money.
That costs another $100. You also get some extra guns when you start the game going forward and a boost of stats. Oh, and the one that really pissed everyone off was, and they're going to have top priority when loading into matches so that they'll be able to go fast. And in doing that, they admitted that Edge of Darkness players had been given like top priority, for matches, which matchmaking can still take like 5 minutes even for us. So it's like, holy
this is like some
fucking
Star
shit.
Citizen shit.
Yeah, man. So the first thing that they backtracked on was priority loading into matches. They were like, okay, going forward, no one has priority loading into matches, at least publicly. I don't know if they've actually done it or if they just said it to make people feel better. But they stood firm on there not being access to this for Edge of Darkness players, that this was not DLC. This is a new game mode, and a new game mode does not constitute DLC, which
Okay.
I would say yes, it does.
Yeah, that seems like a stretch.
Yep. So then they went, okay, how about this? Edge of Darkness players will get access to PvE mode for 6 months. And I was like, oh, that's great. And then the fine print, when the game is released. I was like, well,
And how long has Project Zomboid been in?
We'll get to we'll talk about Project Zomboid at the end. You're spoiling my game played for the. But we're like, interesting. This feels like a trap. So then they went, okay, no longer 6 months. Everyone will have access to it if you got Edge of Darkness. Once the game is released, then you'll just have access to it. And if you want it early, you can upgrade your version, and instead of paying $100, you can pay $50 additional. So hand them $200, and you can play with no one else. Now, this comes very shortly after they caught 33,000 cheaters. Like, they did a mass purge of cheaters from Tarkov. So, like, you start doing the math and all that, and I don't know. This feels wrong. I always feel abused and used after a match of Tarkov, and now the developers are doing it.
It's got real like shell game vibes. Like, watch the DLC that actually has the content you want.
Yeah, it's real rough. So, Tarkov. I don't know. And man, you want to think about toxic like fan base. It doesn't get much more toxic than those players. So it's real rough.
Speaking of angering a fan base, less egregious, but with a much greater fallout probably. HELLDIVERS 2. I apologize for stealing your HELLDIVERS thunder. If you don't mind.
It's fine. Go for it.
They recently announced that they were going to require all computer users, PC users of the game to create PlayStation accounts. They'd have to sign into those PlayStation accounts in order to play HELLDIVERS, which is a bit of an annoying thing in general.
You're right. I've never, with a PC game, been forced to link an account to EA or Ubisoft or Rockstar.
The problem being that because you were mandated to do this, you couldn't play the game without creating a PlayStation account, or you will not have. They backtracked. They have since backtracked, which makes the story less fun. But the problem being is that PlayStation is only available in 69 countries in the world. Which
there
is
are 170
not all the
plus countries, a lot of them in Africa, that cannot use PlayStation Network.
Not all of them just in Africa. It's a fun list I've got.
Yeah.
Spoiler for the quiz here in a bit.
Yeah,
so that upset a lot of people, to the point that Sony actually said, well, if you live in a country where you can't create a PlayStation account, you get a VPN and change your location to a country that you can. And this is Sony actually suggesting this. Unfortunately, Sony didn't realize that their own terms of service said that is illegal, according to their own terms of service. So then they just kind of stopped selling HELLDIVERS 2 in all the countries that they did not have PlayStation Network in, except for Japan, where they just took it down and then immediately put it back up, but a different like game. It's like it's very confusing. Anyway, so this occurred over the course of 3 days. during which Helldivers 2 went from one of the most popular games on Steam to, I think it got 48,000 negative reviews.
Mostly negative now. It's actually like a real travesty. It has 215,000 negative reviews as of yesterday afternoon.
Yeah. So, just got review bombed to shit. And then, finally, of course, the developers of the game, the actual studio who made it, had no control over this mandate. This was something that was supposed to happen from the get-go, but because Helldivers 2 had such a rough launch, they didn't implement it until now.
Yeah, they were somewhat concerned that like it was getting so much traction that they thought this would actually slow down the gain of players joining in if they tried to like force this at launch.
Yeah, and but in the few hours since I prepared my notes for this episode, Sony has backtracked on all of that, and you don't need to have a PlayStation account to play Helldivers, thankfully.
Mm-hmm.
Ghosts of Tsushima, which is due out on PCs later this month, they're developed by Sucker Punch Studio. They have made it quite clear that they do not require a PlayStation login for you to play Ghosts of Tsushima. Just so, like, you know, this was such a PR fucking stink bomb that other companies were chiming in to say like we don't do that.
Yeah.
Just in case you thought we did that.
Yeah. You know what really annoyed me of this whole thing? So eventually, the community managers of the Discord for Helldivers 2 got on the right side of history and did tell people like, hey, we actually need your help with leverage to Sony because Sony doesn't give a fuck about us and won't listen to us. But if they're threatened with like Steam allowing open-ended refunds a la like Cyberpunk, then...
Well, that's what Steam was doing. Steam was actually issuing refunds. If you were in one of those countries that you didn't have, that didn't have PlayStation, Steam was giving refunds even if you had played hundreds of hours of the game. They were issuing full refunds.
And that was making a huge difference between that and the review bombing. Like they actually started saying like, no, this is going to help us make the argument to Sony that this isn't the right way forward for this game.
If I were to like try and like take a lesson away from all of this. At least in Sony's case, I feel like there's like this disconnect, like in general between like the larger Japanese companies and then when they have ownership of these European and American companies, where they just don't get it. Like there's like and I don't know. I feel like I've been traumatized. I was traumatized back when Square was dicking over IO with like Hitman Absolution and stuff like that. But it feels like there's time and time again we have like smaller studios that are based in Europe and North America who are published through Japanese publishers, and there being like a very big disconnect in not just in the like business sense, but also in like the way studios understand their audience to be versus like publishers in Japan understand audiences in Europe and North America. And it does, I think about how Square has been kind of divesting itself of a lot of its Western studios. Sega's been doing the same thing. A lot of embracers, or the entities that once the three-faced godhead of Embracer Group. A lot of the things that they like gobbled up were Western studios that had been owned by Japanese publishers. So I don't know. I hope all parties learn from this.
Yep.
Thing.
Yep.
But that leads into my quiz. So this was I wrote this quiz back when before Sony had backtracked, so this was going to be a bit more pertinent. But I'm going to give you some countries, and you have to tell me if they can play Helldivers, or rather, you have to tell me if they have access to PlayStation Network or not.
I love a true or false. 50-50.
All right.
Those are my odds.
Yep. Yeah, you're all right. All right, so Lithuania, population of many millions, in the European Union, uses the euro, if not mistaken.
The way you're saying that seems like I should say they actually don't have access, shockingly, but I feel like maybe you're tricking me. So I'm going to say, yeah, that would make sense that they'd have access to the PlayStation Network.
Yep, sure don't.
Interesting.
Yep. How about Ukraine?
Well, if Russia gives them permission, then sure. because they still have to listen to them, right? They're still part of Russia. At least that's what Russia's been saying. Oof, yeah. No, I would think they also would have access to the PlayStation Network.
Yep.
Okay.
They
okay.
sure do. They sure do. How about Albania, just across the ocean from Italy?
No. Absolutely not.
Nope, you're right.
Yeah.
They don't.
They don't have access to much.
What about Guatemala? That's a wealthy country.
I could see them having access to the PlayStation Network.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Estonia, kind of the fifth Scandinavian country, depending on who you ask.
Feel like there's some streamer activity in Estonia. I don't know about PlayStation Network, though. I'm going to say no.
Nope, not in Estonia.
Okay.
Not allowed to
right.
play Helldivers.
My gut's pretty right so far.
Uruguay. Do they have access to the PlayStation Network?
No. Uruguay is a year
no
way.
Yep.
Shit. Okay.
Oh, yep, they got it.
Okay.
Pakistan. I think the fourth most populous country in the world right now.
It's pretty filled out. Yeah, I think they would.
No.
Wild.
No, why would you do that? Why would you have the fourth most populous country in the world?
Interesting.
Yeah. How about Serbia?
No, they're not.
No,
gonna
they
have...
do.
No shit.
They get it. Yep, they get it. How about Latvia, also in the European Union?
Sure. They can be on PlayStation Network.
Yep, you're right.
Okay.
You're right. What about Liechtenstein, the wealthiest country in the world per capita?
The wealthiest little whorehouse in Europe. Yes. I'm going to say yes.
Nope. No PlayStation Network.
Guess it makes it easier for the peasants to track you.
I don't think there's any peasants left in Liechtenstein.
They drove them all out with pitchforks.
Yeah. How about Ecuador? Does Ecuador have the PlayStation Network?
I would think they would be.
Yep, they sure do.
Okay.
Yeah. How about Andorra? It's the cute little country between Spain and France.
Thank you. I just started thinking of Andor and how good a show that was. Yes? I'm going to say yes.
Nope.
Oh.
Nope. So how about Russia? Does Russia have access to the PlayStation Network?
Yeah, probably.
That would be yes. No, Russia is allowed.
Okay.
On the PlayStation Network. But what about Belarus?
No, it doesn't seem like they want to have fun there.
No, they don't get to be on there.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's all the fun ones. There's some other ones that make more sense, like, I don't know, Papua New Guinea.
Mm-hmm.
They don't get to it. But either way, it's just weird, the list of, like, countries that do or do not have PlayStation Network. I don't know.
It does seem arbitrary, and it does make me wonder, like, what privacy laws they have in place that maybe it violates, like data collection laws they have in place that it could violate.
I don't think it's privacy laws, because then, like, Germany wouldn't have it, because Germany's got, like, some of the strictest privacy laws.
EU in general has, like, way better data privacy control laws than we do.
But that's the thing. It's like, it's not EU-wide. Not like, there are EU countries that are not on the list.
You'd
and then
think they would have just, like, blanket done that one, but
yeah. Never mind. Anyway, so what have you been playing besides Project Zomboid, or is that all you've been playing?
I've been playing Project Zomboid. Thank you for asking. I was playing some Tarkov. I was getting back into it. It was a lot of fun, and always still playing Helldivers. There's a new war bond coming out this week that looks very fun. So I'm looking forward to enjoying that. But our buddy Nick was talking to me about Project Zomboid, and I was like, oh, is that old zombie game that I used to play and, like, fail miserably at playing back in the day, that really more felt like it was meant for, like, a mobile experience? And he was like, well, it's incredible. It's got so many features. And I was like, let me reinstall it and see what I'm missing. And man, have they added a lot to the game since I last played. And I'm not exactly sure when I last played, but the game got released to early access in 2013. So
yeah, it's been a minute.
It's got some age to it, and you wouldn't realize it. Like all the little features, everything that they've slowly improved upon in it really create this interesting simulator that I'm still learning, and I'm enjoying the learning experience. And I've begun to embrace it as like a roguelike as it should be, where character death is natural. Everything is about incremental growth, and what one character leaves behind is there for the next character to find and use. And it's
and more
about
importantly, you learn
experimentation.
how things work.
Exactly. Yeah, what does work, what doesn't work, try new builds all the time. Just recently, we realized, like, hey, the short-sighted negative trait, you can just wear glasses, and that's not an issue anymore. As long as your glasses don't fall off during, like, a scuffle or something. Like, you're pretty good as far as, like, sight goes there.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like the Dwarf Fortress of zombie games. I played it a good bit, like, 2 years ago, when, like, someone was just like, have you tried this game? It's, like, actually got stuff that happened to it. And I remember, like, that game looked dumb a long time ago, and I can't imagine it's gotten less dumb. But no, it's and like the art style is also really interesting. Like they were like a really simplified polygonal art style, but like as it's kind of filled out, it kind of has like this almost like The Sims 1 vibe to it, like this kind of isometric polygonal simplicity to the whole thing that feels very like almost comfortable. Like it almost makes it work better as a zombie game, because it's like it's not just like this is a zombie game, it's like this fictional cozy setting is also getting attacked by zombies. It's like watching zombies attack your family in The Sims, you know?
Yeah, I don't know, it's just getting, it's caught my attention in a way that a game hasn't in a long time because of its little attentions to detail. You walk around barefoot, you're going to get scratched up feet. That could lead to infection. Like, there's every little thing that you could think of in this game is generally a thing. Different foods have different caloric intakes and different nutrients in them. So having someone who understands that stuff, like a cook or something in the game, is important, because that they're going to see more details about food than your character's going to see. It really lets you like fill out roles in the game as well.
Yeah, one of the better starting traits is if you start off obese, you have like a lot of fat you can like wear off as you play. So by the time you're actually like low enough on food, you're skilled enough that you can actually like fend for yourself.
Or gives you more of a
to, like,
chance to stockpile the food. You just don't have to eat as often.
Exactly.
Then too. Yeah.
As opposed to like having to like immediately be all stressed about food. So,
yeah,
like, a lot of negative traits can turn out to be pretty useful.
Yeah, like my current character, he started obese. He's slowly losing weight, and he's a smoker. And I just went to a gas station, and I have 100+ cigarettes and a lighter, and I just like every 20 minutes, my guy gets antsy, and I just light up a cigarette. Done. Like, I'll be walking away from zombies, and I'm smoking a cigarette, just being like, well, gotta take the edge off.
And like Project Zomboid doesn't do this to the extent that like I would like not my ideal zombie game would do, but like if you think about like State of Decay or some of those other zombie games where you're like constantly breaking into houses and trying, like there's always just like, I went into this house, I found a can of beans. Whereas like this is like, if you find a house that's been untouched and you get into their pantry, they will have 18 cans of beans like a normal house will. And maybe not a normal house will have 18 cans of beans, but you know what I mean. Like there's an actual like reasonable amount of food and stuff like that. It's not like
things make like sense. Now we are playing on a higher difficulty, which does make that more like you might find like 4 or 5 canned goods in a home and like a can opener, but we're not playing so scarce that we're like starving and struggling to find food to survive. It's really enjoyable though. You know, I have gone to this server hosting site in Different Broccoli, and it's very cheap for a 4-player server to be hosted. It's just $6 a month, unlimited RAM on it, so we're able to just kind of hop on whenever we want. You're able to load mods into it. We loaded this mod called Common Sense, so like, can't find a can opener? Well, guess what? A screwdriver can get a can open, like with enough work. So just, I think it takes a little bit longer to open the can good, but like there's way, or like, hey, you have a flashlight? Well, you can clip that thing to your belt and have like a light free with your hand free, like things like that are more intuitive.
It surprises me because like the the developers behind Project Zomboid have been very attentive to like when people have suggestions like that. Like a lot of like the more even like the difficulty part things like you mentioned, like your feet getting scratched up. That could very well have been like a user requested or submitted idea, because like they're very receptive to those ideas, and like there's a lot of improvements and stuff to the game that come from a lot of like interaction with the user base, which is pretty impressive.
There's another build coming up, so I'd like to see some of the things from Common Sense incorporated in, like the ability to use a crowbar to pry open a door, which is not in the base game, which seems odd. Like, you should be able to force a door open with a crowbar, but fine, whatever.
If you can use it to remove wooden planks, you think
you could use it to remove one big wooden plank. Yeah.
That's just held on by two little bits of metal.
Yeah, but the next one's going to have, I just found out actually this morning as I was waking up and reading some stuff about Project Zomboid, the next patch is going to have animals brought in. So there will be livestock. You'll be able to raise cattle and then like farm them for their meat and their leather and get milk from them and all that good stuff too. And I keep hearing the howls of coyotes and wolves, so I'm very excited to like wander through the woods and get eaten by wolves, or possibly train a wolf to be a guard dog.
Yeah.
I don't know. It looks like this is the right way to do early access for a game. If you're just gonna like let a game, if you're gonna treat early access like live service and just let a game exist forever in that state, this is the way to do it.
But I mean, like, I don't know why we have to go with the early access moniker, you know? Because like why not? Like Minecraft's been doing the same shit forever, and it doesn't say it's early access. You know,
No,
Stardew Valley,
yeah.
he keeps dropping updates, and there's no
My
early
God,
access
so
label
many,
on
and it's
that.
like, just fucking do Haunted Chocolatier, dude. Just fucking make that game.
I mean, like, I just think that like it does more harm than good. I think at this point, like, I think especially if you're a developer and you've got your roadmap laid out and you've got like years and years of development planned out, just put it out there. Don't put early access. Just announce that these are free LC. Like instead of, because like if you do something early access, that these updates are expected content that must happen regularly, or else you're a bad developer, right? But if you just put it out there and keep updating it as it is in existence, you're a good developer, because you're just adding free content to a thing. All it matters is just, all you've done is taken the label off, especially now. I mean, it made sense early on where you needed early access to like infuse money into your half-made project, but very few people use it that way these days. They just use it as a test bed, and like that's good too. But why not just get that clout and just be like that developer who just updates shit all the time and everyone loves them for it? You know what I mean? I don't know.
It makes me feel like there's some kind of like tax loophole for like a game that isn't released versus a game that's officially released that some of these developers are using, which if that's the case, that's fine then.
I think also part of it's psychological, because like I think about like WoW Classic, right? When people think WoW Classic, they don't think about the betas. They think about like updates 1 usually, you know, after they added Warsong Gulch and stuff like that. They don't think about like the original Classic that launched without half those dungeons and stuff like that. But the betas don't count. So like a game isn't actually done until it's released. So like I guess like conceivably you could be like, well, yeah, I've added 17 updates to my game since I've released it, but the original one was the authentic vision. Versus if you do it like in early access, then you'd be like, well, these 17 updates are just bringing it further to my perfect vision.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Which, I mean, I don't know, it's 6 of one, half a dozen of the other, you know. But it's Project Zomboid is just such a weird beast, because like it's like at this point where it's getting its like second or third life cycle, you know. It's like Minecraft like that, except it still has early access written on it, you know.
It's so fun. I'm enjoying it so much. I don't know. I'm very curious to see where it goes from here. But you know, check back in 20 years. It'll be a very different game then.
Yeah. It's been out for 11
it's been out for 11 years now.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah. Yep. So what have you been playing?
Oh yeah. I haven't been playing anything. I've been busy with the farm mostly, and I have been dipping into Stardew Valley, Dreamlight Valley. but not enough to like have any. I have nothing new to report about it. It's still there.
Yeah, just
I haven't
tinkering
really
at this
played much.
point. Doing like decorating and like building up and
Yeah, there's like a new content patch that came out, but I haven't really played it much. Like with Oswald the Lucky Rabbit.
yeah, we talked about Oswald. Yep.
I don't know. I haven't really found anything that grabs me right now. I tried to play Civ for a minute. That didn't catch on. I tried to play like went back. I figured I'd try and play like some older stuff. Like tried to play Final Fantasy VIII again because we were talking about that.
Mm-hmm.
Just, nothing's catching. I have an itch for Minecraft though. Now that we've just spoken about it, so maybe I'll go play Minecraft.
There you go.
Actually, there is a game that came out recently. I haven't played it, but I'm very intrigued. It's called Foundry. It's published by Paradox, though I'm fairly certain they didn't develop it. And it's basically like Factorio / Satisfactory meets Minecraft.
Oh wow!
Also an early access thing, and I'm interested in trying that. I'm limited by the limited technical competence of my laptop being at the farm right now, but when I return to the metropolis, I will attempt to play that, I think.
Yeah, it looks really interesting. Like, it definitely looks like it's right up your alley as a game. And, oh yeah, it just got released early access, like 4 days ago, as of the time of this recording.
And I haven't tried Manor Lords yet, and that's also one of those ones that I've been, like, seems like a game I would like.
I have tried it. I feel like it needs a little bit more for its opening, because they were like, well, there's a tutorial for the opening, and it's more of like when you hover over something, we tell you what that thing is. It's not like a guided early game tutorial. And not that I necessarily need one, but a lot of mistakes were being made when I was trying to like plan out my Hamlet, and I was like, I like a game that's more like, well, you've got more villagers coming in, so you need new houses, and those houses need to be upgraded. And this one's more of like, plan out your city, and let's see if it can thrive from there.
Yeah,
like
it's more of a banished than a prison architect.
Yeah, exactly. You got it. Which that's not bad. I am curious to see where it goes with it. I like the idea of like building up all of this, but then also having like down the road real-time strategy combat be a part of it. But I haven't put enough in yet to really have a full opinion, because it is on Game Pass, so I've been playing it through that.
Is it?
Yeah.
I didn't know they're doing early access stuff on Game Pass.
Oh yeah.
I don't know. I had such a bad time with Game Pass last. It's gonna be a while before I try that out again.
Fair.
Just lots of customer service problems.
Oh yes.
I think that's all we got to say. We gotta do another one of these in 48 hours. So
sure do.
Save our voice for a bit. If you like this podcast, you could leave a review or like it or subscribe to it or tell your friends about it. You can email us at thesavestatepodcast@gmail.com or contact us at thesaveState at thesavestatepod on Blue Sky.
TheSaveStatePod Blue Sky. Yes.
And so, but now I've been Arvid.
And I've been Mike.
Bye.
Bye. And now presenting The Safe State, Indiana Jones's Greatest Adventures, without all the racism.
With still some racism.
Still actually some racism.
No racism added.